Kings, queens, and in-betweens, welcome back to the City Boys podcast, where this week we are going to recap the St. Louis City 0-0 draw with the Vancouver Whitecaps, which is, pretty good result for these guys. We are going to recap the match, give our points for this pretty controversial game that St. Louis City could have won. Of course, we are going to do Kit Clash, and then we are going to get you ready for next week's Sunday night soccer matchup against LAFC. But before we get into it, let me introduce myself and these nice, handsome young men that I'm with. My name is Ethan Thornton, and I am joined by two of my best friends, Grayson and Jacob. Grayson, brother, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Yeah, for some of our loyal City fans, you know that we actually just finished doing our City Boys extra time, and I feel like that was good prep to get me all hyped up and ready to rant about this St. Louis City Vancouver game. Honestly, there's not too much to rant about, just one specific issue, but I thought honestly somewhat optimistic about this match week. So not terrible. Feeling all right.
Jacob, you doing all right, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. Another day talking ball about our favorite team, joint three favorite teams. We've got our other side pieces that we love too, but this is the main thing. So let's keep it the main thing. Ethan, how are you doing, brother?
Gentlemen, as always, it is another day in paradise. Earlier on this week, I locked in my attendance for the upcoming US Open Cup match. So I
Ooh.
am very excited to be experiencing the Open Cup, not just in St. Louis, because I got to be honest, I got to flex for a second. Check that box already. But we get to go experience it in Energizer Park. Gentlemen, I'm going to be just living it up once again in Energizer Park, and I can't wait. I mean, I'm super excited for it.
That is
Yeah,
super cool and also brand new news to us.
I know I'm breaking that to y'all right now. So we gotta make some plans. If you're planning on being at the US Open Cup match against Union Omaha, let us know down below so we can say what's up.
for sure. For sure. I'm very excited for to be competing in the US Open Cup again. I know St. Louis City fans everywhere are rejoicing. It's a historic cup to be a part of, and St. Louis deserves to be competing in it. Enough said.
Enough said.
Absolutely. They knew about it in Florida, the Club 11 guys, but gentlemen, we
You want
got
to
this
get into
matchup
it?
against Vancouver, the Whitecaps, the top of the West Whitecaps.
Top of the
Who
supporter shield,
yeah,
Whitecaps.
they're
Yeah.
top of the league.
Top of the league. Um, well, let's start with the lineups. Thank God. Thank God we showed up in a 3-4-3. I really liked the way this one looked. But yeah, starting from the back, Ben Lunt still keeping it clean in between the sticks, ends this match with a clean sheet. Well-deserved clean sheet as well. From left to right, our three center backs were Kyle Hebert, the Canuck truck himself, Timo Baumgartel, and Josh Yarrow. Left to right as the four midfielders, we've got Conrad Vallum, Marcel Hartel, my least favorite City player so far this season, Alfredo Morales, and then next to him, Akil Watts at right mid. And then our three across the top, Celio Pompeo, another start out at left wing. João Klaus, also great start at striker. And then Cedric Toyshirt starting out at the right wing. Gentlemen, what did we think of this lineup?
Well, it had a surprise in it because we've been expecting Henry Kessler. He's an anchor, our rock at the back, someone that generally we know will be in the lineup holding it down, just like Roman Berkey, and neither one of them were in the starting 11 for St. Louis City this week, gentlemen. I was very surprised at Henry Kessler lacking. He has a grade 2 hamstring injury. I believe the current prognosis is around a month of missed time. We just
Fuck.
wish him a speedy
Yeah.
recovery. That is brutal. He has been defender of the year caliber kind of player so far this season. I do want to give credit to our three center backs who started. I did think that Timo Baumgartel, Kyle Hebert, and Josh Yarrow all played pretty well for one of the hottest attacks in the league.
I'd have to say my favorite part about this lineup is the little minute switch up we had on the offensive side, electing to have a three up top. So
Mm.
we have Pompeu and Tushirt playing as more wingers offensively. So that gives Pompeu the freedom to get out wide where he likes to be. Tushirt, of course, likes to come more inside of the pitch, but still looked good on the wing as well. Yeah, so for me, I really like this. I just wish you had Vollum on the other side to overlap Toy Shirt. I think that would bring some real good. Well, I guess once we get Totland back, that will be fine. So
No kidding. Yeah, this is a lineup still missing Thomas Totland and
Edu Lovin.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, Eddie Lovin very specifically.
yeah.
And gentlemen, if I'm being honest, I don't want to be mean, but Cedric Toyshirt has not been up to my standards so far this season. Not the standard that I know him to be capable of. I think I might have liked to see a Simon Betcher start, especially against his old club. I think that it ignites that fire that we already know Simon Betcher possesses. So I might have liked to see that, but we would see Simon Betcher enter the game. So take that
Yeah,
Yeah.
into
Also, I got some clarification on this. So we saw Mackay Joyner as well make his second consecutive appearance off the bench. And I was a little confused on the rules because I thought that after being called up and then making two appearances that they would have to give him a permanent first team contract. But I went to arguably our most knowledgeable MLS contact in my phone, none other than City Views, to help clarify this for me. So he gets six total appearances as a homegrown player. Whether he features or not isn't separate from bench appearances. It's different from a regular City 2 call up because he's an off roster homegrown player. So with second team call ups, they typically get four bench slots per season with a maximum of two appearances. Homegrown off roster being Pierce and Joyner filling those slots get six bench appearances and can feature six times in those appearances before receiving a full first team contract.
okay.
So just wanted to clear that up for any other viewers who were unclear on the rules because I was confused that I hadn't seen anything in the media about Mackay getting a full-blown first team contract.
What did you guys make of Mackay Joyner's appearance out back in a similar role as we saw in his first? Still not too much time. I think he got. When did he appear? The 70th minute or so. So
yeah,
Came
73rd
on,
minute.
yeah.
a longer cameo than his last appearance. It seems like maybe he's winning the favor of Olaf Melberg, or do you guys think that potentially Celio isn't quite 90-minute fit yet, and that's the change that needed to be made?
I think it's a fair mix of both. As we've seen in the last couple appearances, Celio does sort of teeter off as the match goes. I mean, granted, he's our most rapid player on the field, so when he is bombing forward, he's putting in a lot of effort. As well as we know Mackay Joyner to be an up and coming talent, and the more minutes we can get this kid at the MLS level is going to help his development when he is fully ready to be immersed in the MLS.
I like that a lot. And I like that he has gotten two consecutive games in a row. I think that's got to be building confidence for the young player. And I think that's the type of snowball effect that could lead to him scoring a goal in an impactful game, such as maybe a Sunday night soccer game coming up next week, perhaps.
I personally would love to see any sort of appearance from Emil Jaskolinin. I liked him in preseason. I wasn't superbly impressed. He didn't score or anything in preseason, but giving us a little bit of a shakeup in the offensive end may not be what we need right now. We're finally getting a good run from Klaus here, good
Mm.
little run of form. So I'm not saying we drop Klaus from the starting lineup, But like Ethan was saying, we do have Toykert in there. There is room to bring in some more players if we would like to late on in the game. But you know, just a just a thought. Just a thought.
One person I really do want to harp on because this is another game in a row in which he has underperformed what is needed in his position is Alfredo Morales. He
Mm,
literally only had like one good play in this match, and it is what leads to the biggest controversy of this game. It was his pinged ball.
Mhm.
But I was in City Park. I watched him be out of position. I watched him missing open passes. I watched him not hustling back on defense. I watched him not helping the link up play and really just filling space. I would have preferred to see Ostrak come in at halftime and Ostrak start at halftime. Um, could have also seen, well, I guess Ostrak was the only other midfielder to make the roster this week. But like we had talked about last week, even
Miguel Perez call up.
thank you, appreciate it. Yes, a Miggy Perez call up and some minutes for him. What did you guys make of his performance?
Well, look, he's not Edu Lovin, all right, and I don't think that he fulfills the same role that Chris Durkin does. And when when I think about this question, Jacob, I know comparison isn't exactly the wisest, all right, but when we think about what we had before him in Indiana Vasilev, it's hard not to feel like that would have potentially been better. That Indiana Vasilev could be doing what Alfredo Morales is doing, if not better. And I agree with you that I think that Thomas Ostrak he deserves a run out. He deserves a chance. And I think that Alfredo Morales' fitness is clearly doing him some favors. But while Edu is handling things off the field, I agree that this could be a position that we tweak a little bit.
For me, I'm honestly surprised that we have not seen an Ostrich sub come in for Morales at any point during these matches. Like, there's many points in these games where late on, we're talking 60th, 70th, we do see Alfredo jogging back for his defensive duties.
Oh, don't even.
And like as soon as you see that, once or twice, it's like, okay, we're getting there. If they have other qualities they bring to the game, at this point, Alfredo's, and I will give him his credit, his best side to his game is being able to pick out long pinged balls that honestly no one else in this side can do besides Edu Leuven. No one else will play long balls successfully over the top, find strikers, and give them chances to score. He did that for Betcher. He did that for a couple of people. He's done that in past games. But if that's the only thing you're bringing and it only happens once or twice a match and it doesn't get finished, we're obviously going to need something else. And defensively, he's not supplying much either.
Oh, man.
So
His
for me,
go-to defensive
need a sub.
move is
I need
a
a sub.
missed slide tackle.
Oh,
Oh my God, I
brother.
can't tell you how many times he's missed a slide tackle in these last couple of matches. It's like if you're gonna go down, get man or the ball. We cannot miss both. It is imperative that you
Commit.
don't
Yeah.
miss.
Absolutely commit. Yeah, I won't harp on it too much. I'll put it like this. Y'all aren't wrong. All right. But we ready to get into this game, gentlemen. We've hyped it up quite a bit. We ready to rip the band-aid and talk about this nil-nil game.
Please do
Yeah.
us the honor, sir. Tweet, tweet, tweet.
Getting us kicked off in the first 30 minutes. Our first chance would come in the ninth minute after a funky, in a bad way, corner routine would fail to be cleared and fall to Kyle Hebert. I was like, huh? Of all people, it would look slightly threatening before Klaus would eventually sail the chance and it would go begging. I just thought that since Edu Lovin's absence, it does our set pieces, specifically from corners, have not been good. I think that Cello from the run of play or on the field, the chances that he creates from set pieces are incredible. The corner kicks have not been up to Edu standard though. I miss that greatly. Emmanuel Sabi would have the next chance in the 15th minute when he would cut inside onto his left foot, dodging tackles from the Canuck truck. Jacob, that Alfredo Morales slide tackle gets missed, and Marcel Hartel before letting fly. He'd ultimately miss by only a yard or so, but I thought Emmanuel Sabi was actually pretty fun to watch and a good attacking piece in Vancouver that has lots of good attacking pieces. We'll move into the 24th minute when St. Louis would demonstrate pretty good composure to play out of pressure, and Alfredo would demonstrate his long passing ability. Celio Pompeo would bring the ball down softly before cutting in toward the 18. He would slip in a pass for Kyle Hebert, but the defender would slide tackle it toward Conrad Vollum. Conrad would then serve in a cross to a butt-naked Marcel Hartel on the back post, who would tuck away the cross in two touches on the half volley, and St. Louis City would score a goal. We would go up 1-0 against Vancouver, and nothing else controversial would happen in these first 30 minutes. Of course, I am lying, and the goal would be reviewed by VAR and ultimately be disallowed for offside. St. Louis City would find themselves on the hard end of a VAR decision once again, and this one is no less controversial than any other calls that we have seen in the past, gentlemen, because once again, the offside rule is being called into question, rightfully so, I might add. Before we get into this, all right, I want to say quickly, I don't know if I have ever flung my body at something and then deliberately an outcome has happened. I think it's all just out of desperation, but I digress. Let's discuss this offside ruling, gentlemen. I'm
Yes,
actually going to go
please.
to Jacob first, just because I think that he will have a bit of a more concise thought than Grayson just might.
Wild that you think my thoughts are more concise.
Maybe in
Um,
just this instance.
okay, so I have watched this replay so many times, and we have the rule that Grayson sent in our group chat, which hopefully in post production you throw it up on the screen right now. Um, but basically, it's along the lines of like deliberate actions, right? I could make a clear argument that it was deliberate that homie was trying to clear the ball. And then the other FIFA ruling is once an attempt at a clearance is had, that is where the offside line resets. And then if you pause it right where he slides to do the clearance, technically he's not even the farthest man back. There are two other defenders behind him, which puts Conrad Vollum onside. I think Conrad Vollum's onside. I think goal should stand. I think VAR got it wrong. I also am a little upset that this is 2 weeks in a row in which a replay. So 2 weeks ago, we didn't have a review, and the replay didn't get thrown up on the screen in stadium. This week, we do have a review. Replay again doesn't get thrown up on the stadium. So I actually have to wait until halftime to see a highlight so that I can make a decision for myself because all I
Mm.
know in watching the game is that apparently he's offsides. So this is delayed whatever the opposite of gratification is. Just give me the replay in the stadium. I want to see what the ref is seeing on his tiny little screen. Grayson,
Delayed displeasure. Grayson, our most informed host on this subject, our most opinionated probably on this matter.
Probably.
Let him have it, Gray.
Y'all, I am fuming. And I'm fuming at the refs. And not only that, I'm also fuming at every single St. Louis City fan who agrees with the refs that this is the correct call. Don't back down. What are you doing? What this is clearly the wrong call in every sense of the form, and all of the uh, defense of this decision is just they back it up with the FIFA rules, the IFAB law book. Well, guess what? You can find that law book on the internet and read it yourself and stop cherry picking sentences out of the rule book to make your point align with what the refs think. There's a whole page that we can break down and get into, and I will right now. But first off, I want to start off with the official pro response that was given and tweeted by Matt Baker. So here we go. This is why it was ruled offsides. The defender in question made an instinctive stretch or reach for the ball, which resulted in limited control, control of the ball. While this was a deliberate action by the defender, there's that word, deliberate action, and the word control. By law, this is considered a deflection. How? You just stated control of the ball and a deliberate action. And now we're just saying that by law, this is a deflection. Where's that law saying that that's a deflection now? You just stated that it's a control of the ball and a deliberate action. Where are we getting this random, throwing out that this is a deflection now, even though I just said two things that make it not a deflection. The VAR was correct to recommend a review for offsides. I don't argue that. That should be reviewed by VAR. I think most close calls should be reviewed by VAR. The ref was correct to accept the recommendation and disallow the goal. Incorrect, not true. I will also pull up here Taylor Twellman's argument. So a deliberate action is not a deliberate play. He says that really the law needs to be changed and cleaned up. I
Yeah.
agree. I don't think the law needs to be changed. I think clearer language can be used, but when
Mhm.
you're reading the paperwork, it's quite clear, and I'm genuinely confused as to why this is an issue in the first place. Because if you go into IFAB Rule 11 that people like to pull up so many times, they like to cherry pick the specific deliberate play law, which states a player in an offside position receiving the ball from an opponent who deliberately played the ball, including a deliberate handball. So even in a situation of a handball, is not considered to have gained an advantage unless it was a deliberate save by any opponent. Deliberate play. Now let's go into the definition of a deliberate play, excluding a handball, is when a player has control of the ball with the possibility of passing the ball to a teammate, gaining possession of the ball, or clearing the ball. So many people like to take this specific point to argue with my debate right here, and that is that the defender from the Vancouver Whitecaps did not have control of the ball. Hey, it's stated right there in that official response that the player did have limited control of the ball. Limited does not matter in this situation. It's he decides deliberately to take one touch. And that, let's go into what defines possession and control of the ball because people love to stop reading the rule book right there. It clearly defines in the next paragraph what possession and control of the ball means. The following criteria should be used as appropriately to indicate if a player was in control of the ball and as a result can be considered to have deliberately played the ball. Look, this is exactly what we wanted. The ball traveled from a distance and the player had a clear view of it. No defenders in between the ball and the Celio Pompeu.
Mhm.
So clear view from the defender here. The ball was not moving quickly. Please go back and watch that goal again. That pass was not pinged. It is a slow rolling through ball
A
to
slide
Klaus,
rule
who's
pass.
not even close. So slow. The direction of the ball was not expected. The ball was moving in one direction, the same direction, extremely slow. The player had time to coordinate their body movement. Um, I see this instinctual stab word a lot. The player took two steps and then dove for the ball and cleared it. Uh, that's not like standing still and sticking a leg out or standing still and sticking an arm out. Oh, that's a handball. Uh, this dude took 2 steps and cleared a slow moving pass out of the way directly to a
Mhm.
player. The ruling is that it wasn't deliberate. That's ridiculous. Of course it was deliberate. No one deliberately takes 2 steps and slide tackles a ball. No one would deliberately pass the ball to Conrad Vollum. No. It's ridiculous. That
It's also not a deliberate pass. It is a deliberate attempt at a
clearance.
clearance.
It's an attempt at a clearance. At the
Yeah.
same time, this defender, if he was a better defender, he could have just stopped that ball. He could have slide tackled. He didn't have to clear it. If he goes for that slide and doesn't make contact with the ball is going slow enough. It hits him and stops. Where's that? That's not part of soccer anymore. You have to clear it. And so, listen, we're rewarding a defender for being bad at his job. We are rewarding a defender for giving the ball away. Why is this something we are doing? That is absolutely absurd.
Good point.
And the argument that you're rewarding a player for sitting in an offside position, you're not because he wasn't offsides. He was actually onsides when the ball was passed to him by the Vancouver defender. So I don't want to hear any sort of agreeing with this decision or defending this decision. It's incorrect. The law may be hard for people to read because you might be illiterate, but I just
Damn.
beg you to read the law book. It's quite clear.
Also, to be completely fair and honest, I would feel this way if it were reversed and it was a goal against St. Louis. Like if all this had come out and we looked at it through the same eyes that we've got right now, I would be understanding. Like, yeah, honestly, like if Kyle Hebert's put in that position, that's a Kyle Hebert type defensive action. And it would make sense that, let's say, Nick Ahmed would have been on sides for this cross.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's the same thing. Like you should not reward bad defending. You're not rewarding an offender for being in the incorrect position because he's in the correct position. He was making a run for a ball. He strayed offsides for 1 second. The ball was not played to him. Like it's absolutely absurd, and it gets me so heated, so heated.
With that being said, Grayson, why don't you take us through the next 30 minutes of the St. Louis
Yes.
City match? Oh,
Yeah.
is it
Well,
Jacob?
Jacob's got the middle 30
Oh, I
actually.
thought it was Grayson. Sorry, Jacob.
Uh, Not a lot happens in the middle 30, so it is okay. In the 34th minute, Nick Ahmed, who in the same era as Sabi, I thought Nick Ahmed had himself a really good game as well. He absolutely skins Akil Watts and takes him out for lunch, getting enough space to rip a shot that is then deflected out for a corner by Baumgartel, who I thought quietly had a good match. He didn't do a ton of like outstanding defensive work as we're known to watch Henry Kessler do, but he was very composed and did well as the central center back. We jump to the 45th minute where Hartel takes a free kick near post and Klaus clips it over his defender and it is blocked by the Whitecaps keeper. Then arguably the last player you'd want to be running towards this ball and in this position is Kyle Hebert. Does get in there, does sort of get a shot, clip off, and then it is goal line defended once again. And then Takaoka was able to chip it up to himself and catch it, which honestly, great display of athleticism in that moment, to be fair.
I've never seen a goalkeeping moment like that before in my whole life.
It was wild. Like watching it in person, I was just like, that's crazy. I wish we scored, but that was kind of dope.
Like, huh?
Um, Yeah, and then to start the second half, Vancouver comes out way better than St. Louis does, and they have a couple of chances early in the second half, but they were more like half chances, so not really anything major to report. And that takes us into the final 30, where hopefully a heated Grayson has had a few seconds to calmly take us through the final minutes of this game.
Well, there's honestly not too much to talk about in that final 30 anyways. Uh, Couple of missed once again half chances for Vancouver. I can't really call them full chances because None of them tested the keeper. They could have been goals, but just everybody was off tonight. Brian White was silenced by the St. Louis City defense, or just silenced by his own demons, man. I don't know what's going on with
Mm.
him. But yeah, couple of missed chances there, and then in the 86th minute, we see Conrad Vollum take a chance on himself, fakes a shot, cuts it to his left, releases a powerful shot, low driven, but sadly directly at the keeper. Honestly, as soon as he winded up to hit this, I got excited. But at the same time, I also knew this was probably our last chance to score, and it would end up being the last chance for City. Final note of the game, the ref once again makes the end of the match about himself by deciding Vancouver was taking too long on their final throw in, and he calls it before they even get to play the ball. Honestly, just like the ref performance itself was fine. I think he was fine with calls and red card or calls and yellow cards, but the antics and the amount of times we had to speak about this ref is a problem. Like, as a ref, you are not supposed to out overshadow the match in any way. And this guy was draining the life out of the game.
It was really frustrating. Another frustrating like missed calls were anytime a Campo fouled after he had his big performance where he got fouled, there weren't any cards. And Ocampo was going in like pretty hard on some challenges towards the end of the match, and he never pulled a card out. That was really frustrating. It was hilarious too. Anytime he got on the ball after his performance, the entire stadium booed, which literally I was laughing every single time he got booed. So shout out City fans because
Yeah.
we're not here for the Oscars, buddy. We're here for a fucking soccer game.
That was hilarious on the broadcast. It was picked up so well. And I saw Vancouver fans upset at the referee under the St. Louis City page. Brother, we didn't think he was good either. What are you talking
Uh,
about? We paid the refs. I saw one person say.
Bro, if we
To
paid the
do
refs, we would have
what?
won the game.
Paid the refs to
I
what? Call our goal offsides?
Good night. Yeah, that guy was I'm not a fan of him and I don't want to dedicate my energy to negative things, gentlemen. We
Fair.
ready to hop into our points?
Yes, sir.
Well, I know Grayson got his point off pretty well. I know you wanted to talk about that offside
Yep.
call. Jacob, do you want to go first?
Honestly, from like not necessarily a disappointing start to the episode, but like the vibes are down, right? We tied when we feel like we should have won. My point is definitely an uppy type vibe, so
Bring it up. Bring it up.
I'd like to change the course right now. My point as a headline specifically is just Conrad Vollum. I have
Mm.
talked a number of times about how I've liked his performances, and this is just like this kid passes the eye test for me. I love watching Conrad Vollum play. He has like truthfully, he has the ability to be a star on the biggest stages very soon. There is like a tiny bit of immaturity in his game, and we've seen that with a couple of his yellow cards. But other than that, he is so much fun to watch. He was unlucky not to get an assist in this match.
Very.
Um, he also plays with grit and tenacity, which are unteachable qualities and also imperative qualities of a great center mid, in my opinion. Um, I also think that unfortunately, due to injuries, we haven't gotten to see him in the midfield as much as I would like. But this performance, paired with his performance last week, shows the qualities that he possesses as a midfielder. I specifically like the way that he's constantly looking to get on the ball, and when he's not on the ball, he's creating the space for his teammates. Like with Celio in this
Mm.
match, like there was I want to say a couple weeks ago where he and Celio were on the same side, and it felt like they were on top of each other a lot in that match. And he and Celio have both adapted to each other's play style to where they don't feel on top of each other. Like they have overlapping runs, underlapping runs, their link up play together. Like this left side of our attack right now is very solid. And I think both like Celio and Conrad have to start and they have to start next to each other, if not on the same side of the field as each other. And then once you add like a Giannis Horn as that left central center back, you've got Giannis Horn, Conrad Valum, Celio Pompeo, and Marcel Hartle is that left-sided center mid. This is a very, very dangerous, very, very technically sound side of our lineup that is going to give a lot of teams problems. And I don't know if we have another young player in this lineup that gives us the same performances that Conrad Valum does. I will be very sad to see him go because we only have him on loan, and odds are we're not going to
Hmm.
sign him to a full-time contract. But I am looking forward to all of the good and fun moments that he's going to give us throughout the rest of this season.
Agreed. And Jacob, you were not lying at all. That was a pretty up. That was an uppie.
It was some glaze, but well deserved.
He has very much earned it, at least in my eyes. He is a player worth praising for sure in these pretty dark times for a St. Louis City fan. Well, that I guess comes to me. I'm going to talk. This week's point for me is going to be about our defensive ability, gentlemen, because for us to get a clean sheet against the Vancouver Whitecaps, who just put 5 goals against the second team in the West, is a very good defensive performance. Did I mention that we had our second string goalkeeper starting in the net? You hardly could have told. I think that Ben Lunt has been admirable in his time in the starting position, and it's been complemented by a Timo Baumgartel coming around and finally playing 2 sets of 90 minutes. That's been fantastic. We finally have a sample size of Timo Baumgartel and regular St. Louis City players that we are all too familiar with in some good, some bad ways. Josh Yarrow and Kyle Hebert seem to have found their footing. I'm we were questionable on Kyle Hebert coming into the season. We weren't sure how he would fill into a wingback role. Well, he's not playing wingback right now. He's playing center back, and I think he's doing it very well. I was surprised to see Josh Arrow starting in this game. I think based on personnel, he was the best available. I'm just surprised. I think we talked about his injury last week. I guess it wasn't an injury, obviously. They were just very precautionary. It's just so scary, and head injuries are nothing to be messed with, especially for a player like Josh Arrow that we want winning aerial battles.
I do think he had a good game.
It's a commendable performance, I think. And I think at least the three of them have found their feet together while we're missing Giannis Horn, who was doing time at center back, while we are missing Henry Kessler, who this season, I don't think his influence has been properly stated, but we will see against LAFC.
Yes, indeed, we will.
That wraps it up for my point, though. I just wanted to commend our defense because we conceded 1 goal to Austin, but we conceded no goals to the team that scored 5 goals on Austin. So if you're a mathematician and you know about the transitive property, then you can maybe do some good mathematics for us. I'm not the type. I don't know.
So what, we scored four on Austin technically?
Something like that. We held our own, all right, is basically my point. And I'm giving a lot of the credit to the defense because our offense couldn't score. Well, they did, but it got disallowed.
Well, that does wrap up our 2 points. We had a third one earlier. So you know what time it is. It is time for Kit Clash. Ding, 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 ding. We are going to be rating the Vancouver Whitecaps home kit. They wore their home kit in St. Louis this week. So let's talk about it. It's honestly pretty standard, pretty blocky. Whites and blues. We got the navy blue, we got the light blue detailing. It's pretty clean. It's pretty clean. I am not a big fan of like the massive horizontal stripe, but I am kind of a fan on how it looks on the sleeves. So I'm a little conflicted. I'm gonna give this kit a 6.3, kind of right in the middle.
Hmm. Yeah, if I'm being honest, Grayson, that feels a little bit harsh from you. I feel like you're usually much more into the jerseys. So I'm gonna be honest though, I'm right there with you, buddy. I don't rate these kids super highly as far as Vancouver Whitecaps jerseys are concerned. That navy and gold jersey is just so good and a pretty big standard to live up to. But to their credit, I do like the Vancouver Whitecaps badge a lot, and I love a white jersey. So I'm gonna go a bit higher than Grayson, a bit more forgiving at a 7.2.
Well, I am in full agreement with Grayson. Granted, we are a high on white kit podcast, but we have seen some much better white kits on this podcast, and this one does not do it for me. I thought a 6.3 was absolutely perfect, so I'm gonna be right there with you, brother. 6.3 from me.
Deal. Kind of a poor showing for the Whitecaps, both on the pitch and on the kits this week. Kind of rough, kind of rough. But, maybe they will have better luck in our next meeting. Hopefully, St. Louis will have better luck in our next meeting. We will see. But speaking of next meetings, let's go ahead and get into our match preview. We
We
do
got it.
have a pretty exciting matchup coming up next week against a opponent that we don't often do too great against, and that would be LAFC. So, boys, what do you think about this matchup? We got Denny Bouanga finding his form again. You got Olivier Giroud scoring again.
Yeah, Giroud scoring a banger to get his goal account open in the MLS. Also, it needs to be said, Denny Bouanga loves a game against St. Louis.
Absolutely
He
does.
is a minority owner in the club at this point. We're also going to be on the road and through LAFC, so they have 4 wins, a draw, and 4 losses on the season at this
Mhm.
point. Only one of those losses was at home. They are a good home side. Um, Truthfully, I do think we are looking a lot better since our disaster class at Sporting Kansas City.
Mhm.
And we were in upset territory for 2 weeks in a row. So, yeah, I'm kind of looking at a potential upset. I haven't predicted a win on this podcast in a couple of weeks.
In weeks.
And I think this would be a good time for us to right the ship and turn it around. So I'm going to predict a win on this one. But kind of like last week, I'm going to reserve the right to give my numbers and goal scores till the end. So Ethan, where are we feeling?
Wow. Wow, Jacob. You and this precedent that you set a couple weeks ago. I can't believe that we're letting this happen, Grayson. I am actually going to get pretty hyped up here because I could see St. Louis City pulling off the upset on Sunday Night Soccer. I'm going to go for, okay, I'm going to reasonably go for a 2-2 draw. And I'm going to pick Marcel Hartel to score the goal and make up for his disallowed goal this past weekend.
Damn, that was my logic. So I'm gonna have
Mm,
to pick someone else.
think on your
Dang.
toes.
Shit. Well, for my prediction itself, LAFC are a star-studded, ultra-talented, fast-paced side. But when I say all those things, I'm talking about their offense. Their defense isn't very good. They've actually conceded more goals than they've scored this year, and they've scored some goals. They've scored quite a few goals. So I do think St. Louis are going to be able to squeeze some goals in this match. I'm going to go with a
Hope so.
draw. I'm going to go 2-2 draw for this match. And I was going to go cello. Uh, I'm gonna go with Conrad Vallum. We
You
talked about him.
goddamn dirty
Oh,
Yeah.
motherfucking motherfuck you.
We talked about him enough today, and I was just thinking, you were saying, Conrad Vallum is going to produce some memorable moments in a St. Louis City kit. And I think one of those memorable moments is going to be his first goal in a St. Louis City kit against LAFC next week.
yeah, Grayson, make him pay for waiting.
I'm never ever gonna let you guys go first ever again. No, but Grayson, you're right. Conrad Vollum is gonna score. St. Louis City is gonna win this game. But I have to choose someone else. So I'm gonna go with his left side pairing partner, my guest for last week, Celio, the smiley goat Pompey, who's gonna bag one this week. It's gonna be an absolute piss missile as well. He's been looking to rear up a couple times
Oh
and he's
yeah,
played it safe to no avail. So he might just say fuck it.
I
let her
think
rip.
he has got that kind of fuck it energy recently. Just let it fly and get something for yourself here, Celio.
Yeah. Any final notes on this week's game or next week's game? Um,
I'm
I'm
not gonna go
not
to
issuing
sleep.
any apologies for if I hurt anyone's feelings. And hey, I didn't call out any names. I could have. I could have. People were pissing me off this week.
In the vibes of Celio Pompeo, fuck it.
Fuck it.
If your feelings got hurt, fuck it. Talk to your therapist, not us.
Take us out, Jake.
All right. If your feelings aren't hurt and you're still watching, make sure you hit that subscribe button, you like the video, and you drop a comment down below what you think your score prediction is going to be and who your goal scorer is going to be. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you follow and rate 5 stars. Make sure you drop us a review too. Help us out. Give us a review. We want to know what you think. And most importantly, do not forget to tell your mother that you love her. Peace. STL.
STL.
STL. STL.
STL.
Ole, 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 ola.